Hi, so today we're going to be talking about creating your college list. And this is the probably most important thing you will do in this process because it's creating a list of colleges you plan on applying to. So there's a lot of factors to consider, and I'm going to take you through two different programs that will help you make some determinations. But before you even get involved in this process, you need to remember that you are the consumer here. Colleges are businesses, and you are also a consumer of those businesses. So as you go through, you need to think about what is important to you. What are the outcomes you want? What's the amount of money you want to spend? There's a lot of factors, but I want you to understand you have power in this equation. Colleges will decide to admit you or not admit you, accept you or not accept you, but ultimately, you're the one driving the equation because you're the one who's going to be paying for the educational opportunity. So let's take a look at some of the things to consider. The first thing is cost. Before you get into this process, determine the amount of money that you feel comfortable or your family feels comfortable paying per year for college. And this can include any monies you have set aside in like a 529 or savings plan or something like that. And it can include loan amounts and the amount of money that you or your student feels comfortable taking on in loans. But you want to think about this and run some numbers before you get in this process because there's a lot of bells and whistles and bright shiny things that will attract your attention, and if it's not in your budget, you don't want to make a knee-jerk reaction and then find yourself in $20,000-$30,000 worth of debt down the line. So just something to keep in mind. So cost is one thing to keep in mind is public versus private. So public schools are funded by their state for a lot of their cost, which means that their tuition is reduced. And different, again, I'm in North Carolina, so our flagship school is the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. But then we have a ton of branches. We have Appalachian State, we have UNCG, we have UNC Wilmington. We have a lot of other branches of the school. And they have different price points, but they're all kind of in the same general ballpark. You're not going to find radically different prices because the state is picking up a lot of the tuition cost. Now, University of Illinois tends to be a bit more pricey. In-state, Michigan is kind of an interesting equation because they tend to take in a lot of out-of-state students. And if you pay for a school, a different state school, you pay more. So if you wanted to go, I'm just going to use broad numbers here, but if you wanted to go to University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, let's say it cost you $20,000. If you want to go to University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill and you are from Michigan or a state outside of North Carolina, it will cost you $40,000. Again, these aren't real numbers, but it's just to give you the concept that any state school you go to when you're coming in out of state, it's going to cost you extra. And some state schools build that into their revenue stream. So like the UC system, the California system, they're going to take quite a few out-of-state students because it gives them additional revenue. Again, Michigan is one of the ones because they've been in this space for a long time. Virginia, all state schools have a higher price tag for out-of-state schools, and they use that, again, to boost their revenue. So sometimes the cost for out-of-state can be similar to that of private. So a private school, they're going to get money from some government money, but those are often coming in from different grants that the professors get. So that's why a lot of times you'll see professors, one of the things they're trying to do always is apply for and get grant money because it brings money into the university. But for the most part, private schools are getting a lot of their money from tuition. And tuition is the amount of money that a student pays. And so their price tags tend to be higher. So like the difference, again, I'm going to just use North Carolina, between UNC, maybe $20,000, and Duke, maybe $75,000. It doesn't matter to Duke whether you lived in the state of North Carolina or if you live in Alaska or England or whatever. Their tuition is going to be the same across the board. Whereas, again, North Carolina is going to vary it based on if you live in the state and you pay into the state tax bracket, then you get the benefit of it. So determining the cost is super important. I'm going to tell you, I want you to apply to private schools anyway, and we'll get more into that. But because private schools, the sticker price is often not the price that you end up paying. But it's still something to keep in mind that they do tend to run a little bit pricier than the state schools. I'd say probably 90% of the time. About 10% of the time they can actually be lower. Okay, and then I want you to think about the way you learn best. And this is very important because this is actually one of the first questions I ask to my private coaching clients. How do you learn best? Because we want to find an environment where you're going to thrive. If you like small classes where the teacher knows your name and you like the 30, 40 people having a heated discussion about something, then you may be better off looking at a smaller school. If you're fine in those big lectures of couple hundred people, you don't care if the professor knows who you are or not, sometimes a big state school can be a good fit. And some state schools, the way that it works is that a lot of times what are called your gen ed requirements or the entry-level classes tend to have the most people in them, and then when you get more specific and into your major, your class size gets a lot smaller. So that's just something to keep in mind. But a lot of times community colleges have smaller classes than four-year universities. When I was working at Northern Virginia Community College, and teaching there, I think I had 40 students in a class, whereas it could have been a lot more if I were at a big state university. So that's something to keep in mind. And then you want to think about the ranking of the school. Now, to some people, this is very important. They pour through the U.S. News and Report, rankings. What does this look like? What does that look like? And that's fine. You do want a school that's going to match the intellectual caliber of the student if possible. So if you have a high-performing student, trying to match them with a higher-performing university is a very good idea. If your student is not high performing, then putting them in that environment is just not going to be a good fit because the intensity is it's not going to be pleasing to them. It's going to be, it can provoke a lot of anxiety. Alternatively, if you are a high performing student and you go to a university that doesn't have the same caliber of academic rigor that your student enjoys, then they may not get the necessary stimulation. They may be bored. So the rankings can help a little bit in that regard, but they're not something to get too caught up in. Rankings change year to year. One year one school's better, the next year a different school's better, and rankings across the board are going to change over time. So with FIT, pay attention to it, but don't hang your hat and be like, oh, this is ranked 10 points higher than this one. I've got to go to this school even though it costs more than this one because of those 10 points. Because the following year, the 10 points could change. In the next 5 years, they could change. So just keep that in mind. And then some of my students or some of my clients, they want the big sports teams. They want the big football tailgate experience. They want a team to root for in the Final Four. They want the hockey experience. They want that experience. So if that's something important to you, make sure you put it on your list. And the same is true with Greek life. Some people want a robust Greek life, meaning a lot of sororities and fraternities and opportunities in that space. And some people don't care. So make sure you put those out if they are important to you. And then there's the religious and political orientation. So some schools, there are a lot of schools that have religious affiliations. So like Princeton and Harvard, they were all founded on some type of a religious platform. It doesn't mean they're integrated into it now. Georgetown's a Jesuit school. It's associated with the Catholics. There's tons of schools out there. But if you go to Georgetown, it may be different than going to Notre Dame. Notre Dame is more conservative in its Catholic ideology than Georgetown, which is more of the Jesuit influence. So keep that in mind. If your religion is super important to you, then you may want to make sure that you're aligned. Like Oral Roberts is going to have a very conservative religious orientation, and that may be a great fit for you. Campbell University in North Carolina, they're one of the bigger schools that teaches music, and they have a lot of theology. And if that's what you want, find it. You're going to be happier there. And then political orientation also matters. So if you're super conservative, a place like Hillsdale College in Hillsdale, Michigan, is going to be a great fit for you. If you're super liberal, UC Berkeley is going to be it's going to be a good fit for you. And if you flip those around, it's not that you can't do it or wouldn't learn a lot doing it. It's just that you might find, you just might find it a little more stressful than you would I want everyone to be open-minded, but I also want you to be comfortable in the environment you're in. So things to keep that in mind. And then acceptance rate. So how many people are actually accepted into the school when they apply? So if you are a top-notch student, your acceptance rate is you're going to look at schools with a lower acceptance rate. So out of 100 students that apply, maybe they accept 30% of them. And keep in mind, everybody is in a self-selecting pool here. Maybe you're a mediocre student, so you're going to want to look at an acceptance rate, maybe 60-70%. So they take 60 to 70% of the people that apply. So that is something that definitely matters. Location, 100% matters. So you may be comfortable in a more warmer climate. You may love snow. You may love the great outdoors, and you want to make sure that there's a lot of outdoor activities available to you. So keep location in mind, because location will determine a lot of what you can do outside of the school, literally and figuratively, like when you step outside, what you can do, but also outside of your education experience. What are you close to? If you love politics, location, DC is going to be a great place for you to go to school. It doesn't mean that New York and Boston and some of the cities aren't going to also have great opportunities, but if you want to be in the thick of things and running around Capitol Hill, DC is going to be your place. And then there are personal reasons for making decisions about school. You may have something I didn't list on here, but something, maybe you want a really active jazz program. You're going to want to find programs associated with that. So whatever makes you happy, maybe you play ultimate and you want a really strong ultimate team. Put that on the list. We want the college experience to be the best for you. So make sure you list all these things, and I want you to do that before you take the next step of actually doing any research. So go ahead and fill out your list now, and then you can look at this video later, or you can just keep watching. So I'm going to take you through two different programs. I like one called Fisk Interactive College Guide. It costs $20 to join. I feel like that's a good amount of money, and I'll show you why in a minute. And then there's a free one, College Navigator, which is done by the government and is phenomenal. So I'm going to walk you through both of those. All right, so here we are at Fisk. This is the program that costs $19.99 or $20 to access. And I like it because I like the way that Fisk does things. So we're going to do an advanced search. I'm going to do University of Texas. Actually, I'm just going to put in the keyword of Texas. And we're going to submit. Let's say I want to go to the Longhorn State. I just love it. Like, that's super important to me. So it's going to give me all of the information about all of the schools in Texas. And Texas has some great schools. They really, really do. I'm not sure why Oklahoma is coming up in the middle of my Texas search, but hey, here we are. Let's go ahead and let's look at, oh, look at this. This is so funny, as Wisconsin and Tulsa. So anyway, it's not a perfect program, but moving on. I'm just going to go to their flagship school, which is University of Texas at Austin. So you can see from the academics, this is the stars. It's very academic. It's got a great social. It's got a great quality of life. It's a public school. And about 36% of students are accepted. Now, this can be a little deceiving because I am in, as I said, North Carolina, applying to Texas. They are going to look at me very differently than the people who are from Texas. So you have, in the slices of the pie of admission, you have a certain amount designated for in-state and then a certain amount for out-of-state, and they're not really going to mix those two pieces of the pie. The pie I'm going to be looked at, it will be out-of-state. And then you can see, this is what the interesting part is, right? So how many people are enrolled? How many are undergraduates that are enrolled? It is a big school. There are 37,000 students there. It has a it's pretty gender balanced in comparison to some other schools. You have their score ranges, how many students are getting financial aid, how many are on Pell Grants, and Pell Grants are when the government pays for your education basically because you're living very close to or around the poverty line. How many students have student loans to attend there? What's the average debt? How many applicants? How many are accepted? How many, and this is interesting, this is their yield. How many who are accepted are enrolled? How many graduate within 6 years? And all of the schools are set up for a 6-year graduation window. So a lot of people think, oh, I'll go to college for 4 years, and that's what most people do. But the window that everything's compared to is a 6-year window. And then how many of the freshmen return? So out of 100 freshmen, how many are actually returning? And then I like this because it has overlap schools. So you can see, all right, well, it has a very interesting, they overlap it with Duke, they overlap it with Rice, with MIT, with A&M. So they give you a wide variety of overlap. But the reason that I love Fisk is because of the description. Fisk has by far the best descriptions of any platform giving information about college. And you can really read about it. You can read about their curriculum and what it requires, and this is going to be important for different majors. You're expected to take a first-year signature course. It's usually small, taught by a senior professor. It's the list of academic strengths. They have a ton of them. Talks about their programs and what they're great in, what students say about the academic climate, and housing. It just has a very, very thorough description, which I think is very helpful. It gives you some details. Now, the next program I'm going to show you is completely free, and it's fantastic as well. This one is College Navigator. So I pulled up same school using College Navigator, completely free. There's a link in the class or in the course section, and I'm going to just expand all here. So you learn here about its mission, the financial aid. This has a lot of links that are super helpful so that you can see those. This tells you about faculty, the cost. So I mentioned before, in-state and out-of-state. This is the cost difference. So if you wanted to do total expenses, that's really what you want to be looking at. Total expenses for in-state student living on campus, you're coming in around $27,000. And for out-of-state, it's $55,000. So that just gives you a sense of the price difference. And it gives you tuition. So it can be confusing. Sometimes you don't realize tuition doesn't include room and board. Tuition is just what you pay to attend school. It doesn't include any housing or any food or anything like that. So, and then same information but broken down a little bit more. Financial aid, Pell Grants, all the same data, just in a different way. And this I like. So if your income, let's say you make between $48,000 and $75,000 a year, what is the income or what is the amount you're likely to be expected to pay? And the net price calculator you'll see in a different video, super important. You should check that out. Again, we see the attendance, graduate, undergraduate. And then we have here a nice graph of ethnicity. What does that look like? And the age of undergrads. And then you have information about graduate students as well. But here we have, this is also information available on their common data set. So what is the number of students taking these tests? You have it all right here. Again, it was the same thing, just to go back to Fisk. Fisk had this same data here, right? It's just in a different place over here. So that's all. Same information. And again, this is completely free. And then, your 6-year graduation rate, the outcomes for all students, great data, the majors available, how many people are pursuing these majors is for a bachelor's degree, which is what we're talking about, the 4-year degree. And yeah, you can just pull all the way down through here and see who's getting benefits and assistance, what that looks like. And this is always interesting, who's coming in with the sports, which I find fascinating. How many people in track are coming in, baseball, basketball, that's the varsity athlete thing we're going to talk more about in a different video, but I just find this fascinating. And then the accreditations they have. So this is such a great resource, and I highly encourage you to use either one of these in creating your college list. And with the FISC, you can, save it on your list so that you have them to compare and contrast. And for this, you can just pin it to my favorites. So 2 absolutely fantastic resources. Again, the reason I like FISC is just because of those narratives. It's $20 a year, which I find it to be worth it. Obviously, this is my field, so I want that information. But it does give you a little bit more personal detail. But this College Navigator put together by the government is just fabulous. Either way, you can't go wrong. And I want you to use both of these to determine your list, like what's going to be the type of school you want. You're going to spend a lot of time getting your college list together. You're going to spend time talking to other people about schools they go to, doing research. Now, you can go down a dark hole here, and because there are thousands of schools to research. But, using the criteria, when you do a search, you can see I just did a name of a school here. But you can do, you can use a map to do more than one state. You can use zip code. You can say what kind of degree you want. You can do all kinds of more search options. So it brings the number down to you. So plan on spending a bit of time with this. And let's say that you want to be a psych major. Like, that's super important to you if you do the FISC Advanced Search Strongest Program, Psychology. And I'm just going to submit here. I don't have any other criteria around this. You will see, that you can't. There you go. I didn't mean to do it quite that way. But you'll see that it gives you all types of different schools. So I could have made the search different and just put super rigorous schools, but I didn't do that. If I did that, I would have come up, Amherst would have come up right away as one of the top schools with psychology. Barnard All-Women's School would have come up with the top psychology. Bates, wonderful school in Maine. So lots of ways to use these 2 resources. Please use them. And thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.